I remember with unsettling clarity the exact moment everything in my life began to shift, not with noise or chaos, but with a quiet, almost invisible fracture. It happened on an ordinary Tuesday evening, the kind of day that passes unnoticed, blending seamlessly into routine, offering no warning of what was already unraveling. I was in the kitchen preparing dinner, slicing onions with practiced motions. My eyes watered, convincing myself it was just the sting of the knife work, nothing deeper. The comforting aroma of garlic and butter filled the air, wrapping the house in warmth. A life that, to anyone looking from outside, appeared steady, predictable, even content. I married Daniel in my early 30s, stepping into a life with its own structure. He was older, established, a man who had built his world and invited me into it. Confident, composed, and career-focused. With him came his son Tyler, a teenager caught in that difficult space between boyhood and adulthood. I never tried to replace his mother, nor did he accept me. We lived in quiet coexistence, sharing a home without sharing lives, exchanging minimal words, avoiding conflict. Never quite finding connection, but as time passed, something eased. Tension softened, cold silences replaced by occasional conversations, small gestures, a gradual shift to reluctant familiarity. He'd sit nearby while I cooked, scrolling his phone, asking casually for food as if it had always been that way. Not a deep bond, but enough for normalcy. A fragile comfort that made the house feel more lived in, more real. But Daniel was almost never around. His life consumed by work, endless responsibilities keeping him away, physically and emotionally. Late nights, constant travel, phone calls that stretched into hours, always chasing success with an intensity that left little room for anything else. I told myself I understood. That this was the life I had agreed to. That stability often came with sacrifices. That love didn't always need to be present in every moment to still exist. But loneliness has a subtle way of growing in the spaces we try to ignore, settling quietly until it becomes impossible to overlook. And that was the space where Mark entered, Daniel's colleague and business partner, someone who existed within the same demanding world yet carried himself differently. Where Daniel was distant and controlled, Mark was easygoing, attentive, the kind of person who noticed things, who listened in a way that made you feel acknowledged. And over time he began visiting more frequently, at first always tied to work, meetings that turned into dinners, conversations that stretched beyond necessity. And somewhere along the way the nature of those interactions began to change, though I couldn't identify exactly when or how it shifted. Maybe it was during one of those evenings when Daniel was called away unexpectedly, leaving the two of us alone with no real reason to stop talking. Or maybe it was something that had been building quietly over months, hidden within shared glances and small moments that seemed insignificant at the time but carried something more. Whatever it was, the first time things crossed a line didn't feel like a decision. It felt like something inevitable, as if we had both been moving toward that moment. Daniel was out of town. Tyler was gone for the night, and Mark had come by under the pretense of dropping something off, though neither of us truly believed that. We stood in the kitchen talking about nothing important, the silence between words heavier than usual, filled with something unspoken. And when he reached out and touched my arm, it should have been meaningless, a simple gesture, but it wasn't, and I didn't step away even though I knew I should have. Even though part of me was already warning me to stop. And from there everything seemed to unfold in a strange blur, both too fast and too slow. As if I were watching it happen from outside myself, aware yet unable to intervene, and afterward, standing alone with my thoughts, I tried to convince myself it had been a mistake. Something that could be dismissed, something that wouldn't happen again, but it didn't end there. Instead it became something hidden yet constant, a secret woven into my daily life. Existing in the spaces where no one else was looking, brief moments stolen when Daniel was away, conversations that carried more meaning than they appeared to. A connection that grew stronger the more is concealed, and despite knowing it was wrong, that awareness never seemed enough to stop it. If anything, the secrecy made it feel more intense, more consuming, as though it existed in a separate reality untouched by consequence. And for a long time I managed not to think about how any of this might affect Tyler. He remained in the background, absorbed in his own world. His presence easy to overlook. But slowly I began to notice changes. subtle shifts in the way he observed things. The way his attention lingered just a little longer than before. The way he asked questions that seemed casual on the surface but carried something more underneath, asking about his father's schedule, about why Mark was around so often. And while I answered without hesitation, something about the way he looked at me made it clear that he wasn't entirely convinced. And I should have taken that as a warning, should have recognized it as the moment to stop before things went too far. But by then, it wasn't something I could easily walk away from. It had become more than just a series of choices. It felt like something I depended on. Something that filled a part of me I hadn't realized was empty, and so I continued convincing myself that everything was still under control. Until that Tuesday evening when everything finally caught up to me, I was standing in the kitchen, distracted, letting my thoughts drift as I cooked. When Tyler walked in so quietly, I didn't notice him at first, his voice breaking the silence and startling me slightly. And there was something different in the way he stood there, something deliberate, as if he had come in with a purpose. And when he asked if he could talk, I felt a brief flicker of unease that I couldn't quite place, brushing it aside as I told him to go ahead, not realizing that in the next few moments everything I had been avoiding would come into the open, his question simple yet heavy, asking why Mark came over so often when his father wasn't home, and I tried to respond lightly, offering an easy explanation, something harmless. But the look on his face told me immediately that it wasn't enough, that he already knew more than he was letting on. And when he clarified, when he made it clear that he wasn't asking out of curiosity but from certainty, I felt something inside me tighten. And when he finally said that he had seen things, that he had heard enough to understand what was happening, there was no space left for denial, no way to explain it away. And in that moment, everything I had been hiding collapsed all at once, leaving me exposed in a way I couldn't escape. And the conversation that followed forced me to confront truths I had spent so long avoiding. His words direct, unfiltered, cutting through every excuse. And when he pointed out that this wasn't something accidental, that it was something I was choosing, that realization hit harder than anything else. Because deep down I knew he was right, and when he spoke about his father, about the inevitable hurt that would come from all of this, I understood that there was no way to continue pretending that this existed in isolation, that it wouldn't affect anyone else. And when he told me that he wouldn't keep this secret forever, that the responsibility of what happened next was mine, the weight of that settled over me. And when he walked away, leaving me alone in the kitchen that now felt entirely different from just moments before, I stood there surrounded by the remnants of what had once been an ordinary evening. Realizing that everything had changed even though nothing outwardly looked different, the quiet pressing in around me, the normalcy of the setting clashing with the reality of what had just happened. And for the first time since all of this began, I couldn't ignore the truth any longer, couldn't hide behind justifications or delay the inevitable. I had reached a point where there were no more excuses left, only a choice between continuing the lie or finally facing everything I had been avoiding. And as I stood there, the weight of that decision heavier than anything I had felt before, I knew that whatever I chose next would define everything that came after.